Hi everyone, I am working on a cathedral window project, so I thought I would show you how I'm doing this. So you're going to start off with 4 white 5-inch squares and with right sides facing out. And if you haven't seen my trick before, if you use a black light on a white on white fabric, if it's really dull, that is the wrong side of the fabric. The black light shows that right side of the fabric. So you're just going to press all 4 of those white squares into triangles, and then you're going to need 5 charms to make 1 cathedral window, but there are my 4 pressed white triangles, and I will show you what we're going to do next. Then what you're going to do is just lay out again 4 5-inch squares. I'm using a batik charm pack, so I just have 4 in sort of that orange family, and you're going to lay a triangle at each corner, all of them facing in. So because I have 2 of the same white on white prints, I'm just putting them across from each other just for giggles. So you've got your 4 laid out. Next thing you're going to do is just sew this set to this set, this set to this set, and then these 2 together. So the way I do this, I lay 1 square down. I'm just going to take my other white triangle and just kind of align that there. And since this is a batik, I don't have to worry about right side or wrong side, but you do want to be having your right sides together. So I'm just going to create this sandwich and then just stitch 1/4 inch. Repeat that process for your other pair. So again, I just lay these. It also makes sure that my triangles are going where I need them to be. Just lay this on top. Then you're just going to open these up, open those seams, make sure your triangles are both face down. We're going to press our seams open. Now remember, you've got 2 layers here, so you want to make sure you've got 2 and 2 as you separate these, and it's a lot easier when you're seeing them in real life, but just press those open and then you can turn it and give that whole thing a press. So you'll notice this is open. That's how we're going to create the cathedral window. So again, we're just going to open this up, press that seam open, making sure you've got your layers separated accordingly, flip it, give that a nice press, and then we're going, because remember they were all facing this way, so now we're going to stitch these 2 pieces together. So again, we are going to press that seam open, and you'll see you get a nice open intersection here with the corners of those triangles. So make sure everyone's where they want to be, and then flip it over, make sure it's laying flat, give that a good press. Now you can see I didn't meet perfectly in the center, but I'm not worried about that, because what we're going to do is take a 5th square, and you usually want it to be some sort of contrasting, but you know, you can do whatever makes you happy. And you want to kind of align it here in the center of these 4 white squares or triangles that we've sewn together. Now you can kind of play with it as you're sewing, and I will I'll demonstrate that for you, but you want to just sort of eyeball and make sure you are even on all sides, because we want to make sure we cover up this entire square when we do our next step. So I'm going to take this unit, I'm going to pin it to keep it in place, because I feel like this is a pretty good placement and I don't want it moving once I start sewing. It is a little bit more difficult when we're using these pinked edges, but anymore I feel like all the charm packs come like that, so it is what it is. So next thing you're going to do, and you're going to notice that you've got a lot of give here, is we're just going to fold over that edge of that triangle and create this nice curve. You want to start at one end and stop all the way at the other end, ensuring you are covering that whole square. So I just line it up here. Some people will say you should use an invisible stitch. I'm saying don't worry about it, but you do it. And I just pause and tuck as I need. And then I like to start and stop and bring it back around and just do the next edge. And again, I'm going to start right at the top, and I'm making sure I can see a little bit of that, but I'm not going to lose any sleep. So I'm just going to make sure I start that over a little bit. Last edge. So again, just going to start that up there and keep folding it over and holding it to finish that last window. There we go. And there you have a window pane block. I'm working on my last one, and I wanted to make sure I told you I probably use about a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance on these, just because there are so many layers. Sorry, that's my grandfather clock. So 3/8 of an inch is my sweet spot on these cathedral windows, given how much fabric we are working with here. So this is my last one to create my little pillow for the bench. So I'm doing my last one here, and you can see if you just fold it over, you might have a little miss. Because these triangles have been folded and then stitched and we're folding over that edge, this is all on the bias, so it's very, very flexible. So I just pull it over to where I need it, start my needle back at that corner, and you're just sewing right along that edge, and it's going to catch that yellow square in the center perfectly. So I'm going to press these seams open, but first I'm going to take the tequila from my husband, because a good husband brings you tequila while you're sewing. Now, cathedral windows can be persnickety, and so your points may not match exactly. But you know what? That's why they invented buttons. So I'm going to embellish this with buttons and then assemble a pillow.